So welcome, family. I just want to put the screen on gallery so I can see your faces for real one quick second. God, it's good to see everyone. You know, there are 86 people here, so what a joy to gather together. I'm going to go to page 2 and see you. Yeah, it's good to see you. So let me first introduce myself. My name is Noliwe Alexander, and I come to you just full of some heart stuff right now that I'm going to share with you in a moment, but just a little bit about myself. I am the daughter of Larry and Marge, and I am a child of the 50s and 60s. Happy to say that. I am the granddaughter of Maggie and Sydney and Laverne and Elizabeth. I'm a wife, and I'm a mother, and I'm a grandmother of 4-year-old Calvin. And this path that I'm on right now with you, I'm here with you because I have such incredible support from the ancestors. My ancestors, your ancestors, we're here. We're all here gathered together with the support. I have been with EBMC now, I guess, pretty close to since its inception. I have gone through many programs. I also teach at Spirit Rock. I've gone through several programs there. I just recently graduated from a teacher training program with Spirit Rock, a 4-year program. And I'm one of the guiding teachers now for a new program that EBMC has. It's a teacher training program called STILL. It's the acronym for Spiritual Teacher and Leadership Training. So it's quite a wonderful opportunity for us to grow EBMC and its the depth of where our teachers will be coming from. So again, it's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. And before we go into about a half-hour meditation, I just want to speak to what's on my heart right now. And that is the violence, the hatred that we're seeing in this country for our Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, brothers and sisters. When we got on earlier, just to do a sound check and everything, I was saying that none of this is new. But it still moves my heart in a way that I would like this violence to end now. And of course, I've been saying this for decades. And yet my heart is going out to our brothers and sisters in the AAPI community. So please know I am standing with you all, whoever is here, in solidarity to stop this violence, stop this madness. And I want to share with you a quote from a friend. To hold space for our pain is the way that we begin to take care of our pain. Taking care of our pain softens our hurt as we do the work of empathizing with ourselves. Empathizing with ourselves makes it easier to empathize with others around us. Empathy is at the root of the love and the compassion that will begin to disrupt the system that creates harm. And that's from Lama Rod Owens. And I'm going to share with you 2 other quotes from some incredible people who we all know. The first quote is from Martin Luther King Jr. Returning hate for hate multiplies hate, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And the last quote that I'll speak to is from the Buddha. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. So, family, this is what's been on my heart. This is what I've been sitting with for the last few days. So I want to share that with you. And I will carry it into my heart as we go into meditation together. So let's just find a place that is comfortable for you to sit. And I invite you to find a posture that works for you. And there are many postures in which you can rest your body in. You can be sitting. You can be lying down, standing, or walking. And if it is accessible to you, you may close your eyes. And if it isn't, you can lower your eyes, maybe just right in front of you, in front of maybe on your lap. And for those who want to keep their eyes open, that is also welcomed. And as we begin to find our comfort place, just begin to take inventory of your body. Know that connection, that the body is not separate from mind, heart. So bringing some attention to how you're sitting, the level of comfort, the level of ease, but with some alertness. Taking note of your neck, your chin, your jaws, moving your shoulders away from your ears, bringing them down. Resting your hands, whether in your lap or to your side. Feeling into your legs. If you're on a cushion, opening up your sits bones. If you're in a chair, doing the same. Maybe opening your pelvis up. That also opens the chest. You're sitting in a chair, having a 90-degree angle at the knee. If you're on a cushion, feeling the comfort of your knees resting on the ground, the earth. Feeling into your calves, ankles, feet. And finding a place where you can touch the earth. Allowing the mother to reach up and touch you, meet you in all the places of your body. And now finding that place that we call the anchor. It could be your breath, bringing awareness to that place in your body that you're breathing. The constant inhalation and exhalation. If the breath isn't accessible, it might be sound. You might hear something in your space right now that will draw you back bring you back to a place of your anchor, your home base. I invite you to rest your hand on your heart or on your abdomen or your belly, feeling into the breath, the expansion, the contraction. Feeling the breath from its very beginning. And then exhaling. And then finding the pause right before the inhale again. Home base, your anchor where you can return when the mind begins to wander, proliferate in thought. And finding your own rhythm with the breath. In your seated posture or lying down. And gently bringing to mind how your heart might be opening, or it might still have a bit of closure or sorrow and tears, but just touching lightly into what that feeling is for you. Not pushing it away, but just feeling into what it is right now. This mind, heart, the experience of who we are. And I invite you to soften. Just soften your breath, breathing into your heart. Knowing that you're supported in this container and in this Sangha. Touching into the goodness of others. Those here on this, in this Sangha this evening, and those around you, your family, your loved ones, your beloveds, your pets, your animals, all beings. Continuing to find that pace for your breath. Touching into the heart, into your body, leaving no part of you out. Expanding your breath so we can reach those who may have been harmed or may be in harm's way. Expanding your heart to open to compassion. To those who are facing difficult times, horrific times. Meeting that suffering with deep compassion, friendliness, love, kindness. And returning to your anchor, if your mind begins to wander, just coming home, coming back, returning to this moment. In this moment. In this moment. Feeling the earth supporting you at all times. She's reaching up to hold us, asking us to remember that there's no separation between earth, sky, body, mind, heart, water, fire. This circle of life. filling into this gift of Sangha and community, what has been created here to hold us in both the joys and the sorrows of our lives. This gift, collective breath, collective hearts, noticing what's arising, allowing, acknowledging it's there, and then allowing it to leave you, letting it go. This state of impermanence, the arising and the passing away of thought and phenomena, all gathered together. Calming the mind, just taking a moment to still yourself from all the activity and the reactions and the activation that lays not only in our mind but also in our bodies. Allowing yourselves to rest in stillness. allowing your attention to become much more spacious, beyond the breath, beyond the body. The awareness grows further and further out into consciousness that has no boundaries. Just feeling into that moment, moment to moment. The body breathing the breath breathing the body. And as our practice period comes to a close, I offer these words from June Jordan. We need, each of us, to begin the awesome, difficult work of love, loving ourselves so that we can become able to love other people without fear, so that we can become powerful enough to enlarge the circle of our trust and our common striving for a safe, sunny afternoon near to flowering trees and under a very blue sky. From her essay, A Powerful Hatred, 1994. So as I ring the bell, I invite you just to listen. As the tone of the bell takes you into a deeper awakening. I thank you all for your practice this evening. Welcome back, family. Take just a few more minutes, for just a second or so, for people to arrive back. It's good to see everyone. I've got you on gallery, so I'm able to see either your faces or your square. Yeah, good. Great. Yeah, I love the heart. Thanks. So this evening, my talk is going to be on the hindrances. And some of you may know of them, but my guess is once I describe them, you'll really know. You'll kind of raise your hand and say, yeah, I get it. I got that. That's me. So every time I do a talk, I actually title my talk. So this talk is entitled The Seduction of the Hindrances. And I have to tell you, when I first heard the word seduction and the Buddha Dharma together, I thought it didn't work. It was like, what? But then I actually heard Joseph Goldstein speak about 8 years ago. I was in a retreat back in Massachusetts, and he used the word seduction. And I thought, it doesn't quite fit, not quite sure. But then as he gave his talk, I really got a hit of what he was talking about. And what it is, and I'm sure we can all relate to this, it's the hook that hooks us, right? We get intoxicated with something. We grab a hold of it. And Pema Chodron calls it chimpa. It's how we can't quite get loose of a thought, a feeling, an emotion. It's that hook. And the Buddha called the hindrances, these mental objects. It's actually, if some may be familiar, some may not be, there is these foundations of mindfulness, which is why we're on this path and we're in this Sangha today. There are 4 basic foundations of mindfulness. And part of the 4th foundation of mindfulness is called the Dhammas. And within that are the hindrances. And the hindrances are the things that impede us, are obstacles in our practice. So I'm going to name, there's 5 of them. So I'm going to see if you can relate. The first one is called sensual desires. It's the first one. When I first heard that, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I don't understand. Nope. But what it really is attachments. It's the craving, the wanting in your practice. The second hindrance is aversion, or also called ill will. It's the things we don't like. We push it away. It's the unpleasantness that sometimes happens in our body when we're sitting, right? And you got a little stitch in your hip. You're like, oh, that's unpleasant. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to feel it. Aversion. The third of the hindrances is sloth and torpor. So I don't know if any of you have ever gone, I'm sure many of you have been at a retreat center doing a week-long, month-long, whatever it might be. And for the first day or two, you're just really hecka sleepy, right? You just can't quite keep as soon as you sit down, you close your eyes, you're asleep. And you're kind of worried that your neighbor will hear you snoring. But that's sloth and torpor. And what it really is the dullness of the mind. It's a mind that becomes uninterested. And the converse of that, the fourth hindrance, is restlessness. And it's the restless body, it's the restless mind, it's the restless energy that's flowing through you. And the fifth hindrance, which I'm going to look for a show of hands, it's doubt. How many have had doubt in their practice? I'm going to scroll through. I see the hands. I see them. Yeah. Am I doing it right? Am I on the right path? What am I listening to, really? What's going on, right? Doubt. These are hindrances that really impede the process of your practice. It impedes the process of actually settling deeper into a stillness and a silence and into concentration. And it happens to all of us. But this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about not just the hindrances, but the antidotes to it. And maybe they're just little tools that you can use in order to rid yourself of them, or at least to acknowledge that they exist, because you're never going to rid yourself. They're going to come back up. And it's helpful to explore, first of all, why are they so alluring to us? I mean, why do we get so seduced by them? What is that? Because we know that it's counter to our awakening path. We know that. But yet still, doubt, restlessness, tiredness, dullness, all of those things, greed, aversion, ill will, they still exist. They still show up. And for me, they not only show up on the cushion, but for me, where the practice really becomes alive is when I'm off the cushion, is when I'm in my daily life. It's those places that we can begin to be aware of when they show up. But you have to bring your attention to it. So while we're in this place of, okay, I've got my attention, the next step would be a little bit of investigation. Oh, there it is again. Okay. Doubt. I wonder what the doubt is about. Underneath the doubt, maybe fear. Underneath that, maybe something else. Maybe it's worthiness. Underneath the greed, it might be I'm craving. I'm clinging on to something I can't quite let go of. Or, boy, that was pleasant. I want that again. Or restlessness and worry. Sometimes I know I have sat on the cushion or even in my day and there's so much energy going on in my body, I can't sit still. I'm just like a little vibrating dishwasher. I'm just churning inside myself. It happens to all of us. It happens when we're on the cushion in meditation, and it happens when we're not. It happens in our daily life. The mind starts to become agitated, or it starts to become dull. This is how we get seduced into these mind states. And actually, even if we try to bring all of our consciousness to it, all of our mindful thoughts, all of our emotions, we can begin to start looking at how do they arise for us. Because even in the meditation just a few minutes ago, were you aware that the thoughts were arising as they were arising? And could you see them actually dissipate and the next one come up? It's the nature of our minds. The rising and the passing away of thought and mental phenomena. But one thing that we know is that we just can't be observers. We just can't sit on the periphery of this if indeed we are looking at cultivating a practice in stillness and in concentration and in mindfulness itself. And the word in Pali for mindfulness is sati, S-A-T-I, sati, mindfulness. And so if we want to be able to become much more responsive to what's happening in the mind-heart, we actually have to become participants in it. We have to get interested, bring some energy to it, effort. And our mind is like a minefield. It's always, if you step on one thing, it's doubt. You step on something else, it's greed. It's constantly going on. Once we have an opportunity to experience what hindrances are, how they affect our lives, what's the impact to them, we can begin to name them, feel them. And what happens is they start to lose their energy and their power. It's like anything in meditation. If you are able to note it, it no longer has its same hold on you, begins to loosen its hold. And then you get a greater opportunity to walk into this field of insight. And need I say, freedom. Freedom from the mind that's constantly proliferating, because that's what it does. And you're better able to get to a place of concentrated practice. When we work with hindrances skillfully, we can actually become happy when we see them arise. Sounds crazy. Oh, doubt. But when you know it's doubt, you can name it. It's doubt. It's greed. There it is again. There's another hindrance showing up. We don't have to push them away. We can actually recognize they're there. Note them, name them, pay attention to them. It brings us closer and closer to that place, the path of liberation and freedom. This is a path of practice. The Buddha said, when we attend to the hindrances carelessly, they cause lack of vision, lack of knowledge, are detrimental to wisdom. They tend to vexation and lead away from nibbana or enlightenment. When we look at them carelessly, we're not paying attention. This happened to me today. I was in the kitchen. My wife was in the bedroom. And I had this thought that was going on, right? It was like, oh, well, she's laying down. And my mind was starting to work, right? Starting to go into my mind, my cycle. And I realized that I was fixating on the fact that I was going into this I ego place, right? As soon as I recognized it, honestly, it started to lessen, started to reduce the energy that I was holding on to it. It's a deep practice. In one of the suttas, it's in the Samyutta Nikaya, which is a large book of discourses from the Buddha. He said this: just as monks, this body lives on nourishment, lives dependent on nourishment, does not live without nourishment. In the same way, monks, the five hindrances live on nourishment, depend on nourishment, do not live without nourishment. So you see, as long as we're feeding it, we're not becoming aware of it, it grows within us. It's constantly arising. It reminds me of the story of the native elder grandfather who said to his grandson, I have two warring elements inside of me. One is tough and harsh and violent and all of that. And the other one is full of love and compassion. And the young grandson said, "Oh my goodness, you really are fighting inside yourself." He said, "Son, I am fighting." The grandson said, "Well, which one wins?" And the grandfather said, "The one that I feed." So we have an opportunity to understand that if we're nourishing these hindrances, if we're kind of allowing them to go on with their business of derailing us, then we're feeding, we're nourishing these places of unwholesomeness within ourselves. So sometimes, and this is not all the time, but sometimes these mind thoughts, these mental states that occur, have messages for us. Sometimes they could be anger. And I am one to say that people say, don't be angry. I believe that anger has its appropriate place in us, because anger actually spurs something forward if you actually see it for what it is. But you have to really look at the messages. What's showing up for us? Is it misplaced? Are we reacting, or do we have an opportunity to respond? And again, it's our choice. So these seductive powers of the mind, of the hindrances, begin to hook us, right? Grab us. So I'm going to be conscious of the time. So now I want to go into these hindrances, and I'm going to talk about them, and then I'm going to talk about the antidotes to them, because this is the fun part. Once we know, we cannot unknow it. That's Noliwe speak. So the first hindrance, sensual desire. You know, there are these senses, these sense doors that open up in us. 6 sense doors: sight, smell, touch, taste, feeling, and thoughts. And all of these things can arise with pleasant experiences. I like that. Ooh, boy, were you just cooking garlic and onions? That smells so good. Because I always do that. And I'm like, oh, that smells really good. Oh, I want more of that. And I'm going to digress for a moment. I'm going to tell you a little story. I was on a retreat once. It was a long retreat. It was a 6-week retreat. And for the first, 3 days, sloth and torpor. Sleepy, sleepy, sleepy. Could not stay awake. Every time I sat on the chair, went to sleep. And so I was really fighting that. I was really striving not to do it. And then one day I went into the hall. It was really like 6:00 in the morning. I sat down, and before you knew it, the bell rang, and I was awake. I was actually in a beautiful, blissful, meditative state. And when I got up I consciously said, I like that. I got up and I went to do walking meditation, and walking was good too. I was good. So right after walking meditation, I went back into the hall and I said, I want the same thing that I just had. I want bliss. I want nothing other than bliss. I sat down and I said, okay, so how was I sitting? I think I was in the chair like this. I don't know if y'all can see me. I think my head was like this. Maybe my tongue was out like, okay. I had a cushion under my feet. Okay, let's bring it on. Come on. I want the same thing. And literally 40 minutes later, I'm still struggling to try and find that same blissful moment, right? Because it was so pleasant, I wanted it again. I was grabbing a hold. I was craving it. It was greed. So it didn't stop there. The next time I went in the hall, I tried the same thing. I said, oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe the pillow was like this, and maybe I was sitting like this, or whatever it was. Still didn't happen. So this craving, this wanting, it blocks us from actually having a moment of concentrated meditation. So here's the first antidote. And this is with all of them. When it shows up, know that it's there. Name it. Oh, okay, it's present now. Greed, wanting, craving. This is around that first hindrance. And the second antidote is don't go chasing it. Sounds silly, right? But we do. Here's my story. I kept chasing, wanting the same thing to happen. The same experience, the same sound, the same smell. I wanted it all to be exactly the same. It's a huge way in which we can begin to reorientate ourselves. When we become that acute in our mind, heart. Second hindrance, ill will or aversion. We all know what that's like, unpleasant. I don't want that. I don't even want the smell of whatever it is that you don't like in the house, or what you're pushing it away. Maybe it's the body as you're sitting. Really trying to be having that aversive mind, having a reaction to it, the unpleasant thought, the unpleasant sensation. So here's the antidote. And I'm not saying fall in love with what's unpleasant, but again, pay attention and know that, oh, right now I'm experiencing something unpleasant. That's what's showing up for me. Name it. Feel it. Body, mind, heart. Recognize it's there. And another great antidote is to bring loving kindness or metta into your practice, into your walking, into your cooking, into your day. Begin to turn the table of this unpleasant ill will into, may I just bring some happiness to myself? May I be calm? May I find a place of rest and stillness? Loving kindness is the second antidote here to ill will, that hindrance that shows up for us. Third hindrance, sloth and torpor. That sleepiness, that it's not even sleepy. It's a dull mind. It's not being interested. It could be from lack of sleep. It could be from overeating. There are many, many causes of it. But be aware that if the mind is dull, you're not going to get into the pathway to that place of true concentration. And sloth and torpor, it's a weird word, but sloth, because I think about that animal, right? It's got like two big claws and it's very slow. That's kind of how the mind works. Very, very slow. And it happens to all of us, not just on the cushion. It happens in our daily life. So here's the antidote. Again, be aware when that hindrance arises. Simple. Here it is. Tired, sleepy, dull, not really interested. My mind has no energy, has no effort. It's not producing anything. And the other way to the antidote to change that is, especially if you're on the cushion or in a chair, stand up. Have you ever been in a meditation hall and after your practice period, you look around and there's 3 people standing up? They're standing up to bring some alertness to themselves. If you're on a cushion or you're sitting in practice, open your eyes. Just open your eyes or look at a light. It brings about a different type of stimulus to the eye, to the mind, brightens you. And then be mindful about, let's say you're going into practice, you've just eaten a very large breakfast, and then you sit down or you lie down on the cushion to have a practice period. I don't know about you, but my Thanksgiving meals are really full. And I know what happens when I go in that living room and, and everybody's like dozed off. It could be the turkey, but it also could be a little bit of overeating. So just, again, bring your attention to it. Nothing else that needs to be done. No, it's there. Here's something. When you get sleepy in practice, I'm going to show you this. You see this? This is a statue of the Buddha, and you see his ears. I don't know if you can see this or not. Can you see it? A little bit down. Can you see it now? See how long his earlobes are? It is said that the reason why the Buddha's earlobes are so long is because he fell asleep so often that he would pull on them, right, to wake himself up. And I've been known to pull on my earlobes when I've been sleepy. Just a little bit of tug to wake myself up. Brings a little bit of brightness to me. An antidote. Right? Fourth hindrance. Restlessness and worry. Restlessness and worry. That monkey mind, they call it, right? The mind that is active. It's jumping from one thought to another thought, to one limb to another limb. And so much of it is misplaced energy. We can't bring it, we can't settle ourselves. Body, mind, heart, it's all over the place. And it happens to us when we're in practice, and it happens to us in daily life. Part of what I'm noticing now is the stimulus, not only of Zoom, but social media, emails, all those things are just activating to the point where, I'm like this, I'm vibrating, and I have started to turn my computer off at least a half hour before I go to bed. Because as I lay in bed to go to sleep, I'm still active. Everything is still really firing up inside me. And the worry part of restlessness, of this fourth hindrance, spins us. It spins us into these places of constant thought processes that then turn into another thought process and another one and another one. The mind starts to proliferate. In Pali, it's called papancha. It's a constant going on with the mind. Here's the antidote. Equanimity. Maybe a new word for some. Equanimity. Balance. Seeing what is without trying to make it something else. Also, another antidote is maybe walking meditation. Just get up and walk. And you don't walk slowly as you would maybe in a small meditation, but get some speed on it, get some energy on it so that you can actually dispel the energy that's happening in your body. So that you can become more collected. It's such a beautiful way to bring yourself into alignment. I find walking meditation for me is one of the things that solidifies my practice. Fifth hindrance, doubt. That's the one I had you raise your hands, because who hasn't felt doubt in their practice or in their daily life? My hand was raised too. I mean, it's disguised as a whole lot of things, but really we begin the mental thought process of, am I doing it right? They're doing it better. Why am I on this path? What is she really talking about? Is the Buddha really somebody I should be listening to? All of these things start to erupt inside of us and leave us somewhat disassociated, not from a psychological standpoint, but disassociated from mind, heart, body. The antidote, again, simply notice it's there. Doubt is arising. Again, when you notice something, it starts to lose its energy. Another antidote is, again, to begin this sense of investigating. What's underneath the doubt? What's showing up now? Asking yourself these questions with absolute vulnerability and honesty. And then reflect on the benefits of why you're doing what you're doing. And when you're caught in those mental aspects of your mind, just keep trying to figure out, why is it there? That's that level of investigation. It's so important in our practice. I'm going to end with a story of the Buddha. So on the night of his enlightenment, the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree, which is pretty common. We know that story. And he had firm resolve that he was going to sit there until he reached that state of nirvana. Now, during the night, there were a whole lot of forces that came to him. And those forces were temptation, irritation, seduction. All these energies were trying to take him from his full self, his true self. Those forces are commonly called Mara. The forces of Mara came and were, they showed up as beautiful women to seduce him. They came as warriors on horseback. They came in all these different ways. They were coming as desire, aversion, doubt, restlessness, and sleepiness, the five hindrances. And as the story goes, the energies of Mara came all directions forcibly to him. They tried to knock him off his perch. You will not be enlightened. But he knew that this was his path. And through the workings of his mind, he remained steadfast. He was able to recognize all of those hindrances as they arose and also saw them dissipate. It is said that the mind of this great being was not moved. And the other part of the story is that he touched the earth with his hand. And when asked many, many times over and over again, are you a man? Are you a god? Are you a deity? And what he said, clearly, he says, no, I am awake. This path is for all of us, this place of awakefulness. But we really need to understand what's going on in the mind when we're in meditation and when we're in our daily life. There's no mistakes while we're here, in this container, in this room, right now. The path is laid out in front of you. These are incredible tools for us to begin to learn from, grow with, deepen our practice. even in the places of sorrow, even in the places of joy. Know that it's existing. Know that it's arising for us. The hindrances have been a practice for me that has brought me sometimes to my knees because I can't shake some of them. I have become so habituated and conditioned that I hold on to them as if they're precious gems. And yet I know that it's counter to the path of awakening. And once I know that, I can actually start to let them go. But first, I need to know that they exist. It is a foundation of mindfulness. They say that once you know your hindrances, know they're there, and you see them dissipate, you can then enter into deeper, deeper states of concentration, and some people say into the jhana states. It's practice, folks. It's practice. And it's owning up to when these things are arising within us. Just that simple. Well, not so simple, but it's simple. So as I end this evening, I'm going to end with a poem from Rumi. And it's called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Know that they exist and know that they too will rise and pass away. Thank you, family. Thank you so much for listening, your kind attention. It's just a pleasure to be here with you. May you be well. May you be safe. May you hold your hearts and all families very, very close. Thank you.